Trials of a cashless welfare card will be extended for another 2 years after the Scott Morrison Government failed to win support to make the scheme permanent. Labor Senator Pat Dodson has called the program racist, and he says it targets Indigenous communities. I'm now joined by one of the bravest and most principled women in the country, the always brutally honest and insightful Jacinta Price. Jacinta, good to have you on. We've heard a great deal in recent days about how racist and punitive the cashless welfare program is. There's even a petition to scrap the program. I think we've got it up on the screen. The petition was tweeted by the legal director at the Human Rights Law Centre. You can see there they're saying it's racist, it entrenches poverty, it is punitive. Why is there such strong opposition to this scheme?
Oh, because some people have to feel as though they're important. I can't think of any other reason why, there is so much opposition to it. I think, I really think what's going on is in the Northern Territory, we have had income management since 2007. We have had the basics card, and we have never experienced this level of pushback against income management and against the basics card. And it's largely been implemented to those living in remote areas of the country, largely out of sight, out of mind to people like Pat Dodson. I think now, because the trials are being rolled out into other parts of the country, that suddenly it's like, no, we can't possibly have it anywhere else. It's okay for the blackfellas in the bush, but we can't possibly have it anywhere else in the country. And the thing is, I was part of the research conducted into the first wave of the evaluation process for the basics card itself, which is a 50-50 split of your income, and which, the basics card is further behind the 8 ball of the cashless debit card in the way you don't get access to all of the sorts of things you can with a cashless debit card, which is presented more simply like a bank debit card. But there were the vast majority of individuals I spoke to on the ground, and mostly women, were very happy with having it. I spoke to individuals who were able to overcome their alcohol, their dealings with alcohol, their addiction with alcohol. It wasn't just Indigenous people, but there were non-Indigenous people. There was an individual that I spoke to who had overcome their drug addiction and were able to then take back custody of their child, ensure that their child went to school. The evidence, what I was confronted with was overwhelming support for the basics card. And the cashless debit card is a huge improvement on the basics card. So I'm not understanding why all of a sudden these individuals are jumping up and down, complaining about racism, and these same individuals will never actually stick up for the human rights of Indigenous women or children who are being destroyed at the hands of other Indigenous people, but they will happily claim that something like this, which is benefiting the lives of vulnerable women and vulnerable children, is somehow racist. It doesn't make any sense to me, and I think it's a pathetic cop-out for people that don't have answers for attempting to try and address domestic violence, alcohol and substance abuse and those sorts of things. They don't have any answers. They don't have any alternatives. They just want to shoot this down without allowing it to continue to unfold. And they claim there are no benefits, but I know that there are benefits.
Well, you've seen the benefits. You've spoken to the people who are actually involved in this program and who've told you how it's impacted their lives. How many of these opponents have actually been in those communities and spoken to real people and got that feedback about how it's impacting them? Is it always just broad ideological opposition, or is it actually people who have been in those communities and been told this is infringing on my rights, I see it as racial, I see it as oppressive?
Look, what happens is when people, to the left don't like an idea, don't like something that's about attempting to address some of these really serious issues, they will co-opt, they will then, there were people I know in the Kimberley who were very happy with the trials that were being run. They could see the positive effects of the card in their communities. And then what happened was the pushback from opposition encouraged individuals in communities and, you know, those who don't necessarily want their income managed because of the fact that they would like to have access to things like gambling and alcohol and those sorts of things. I've been told by some people that they've been bullied by those individuals to either remain quiet, to not say anything at all about their support for the card, or change their position on it. And, you know, this sort of thing happens all the time. It's not spoken about. And quite often people can be thrown under the bus if they don't toe that particular line, and you know they're at risk of being threatened as well. So,
gosh,
it's there's all those sorts of things that are going on in these communities, and to suggest that it's racist to deal with an issue that Indigenous Australians struggle with a lot of issues. We struggle with things like rheumatic heart disease. We have campaigns that particularly target Indigenous Australians because they're disproportionately affected by things like heart disease, by diabetes. But we don't say that these campaigns and these programs are racist, are we? Do we say those things? No, we don't say those things. We only throw around that term racist when we don't like something that's a tool that can be effective. It's not a silver bullet. It never has been, but it's a measure that's needed when you're dealing with people who are struggling in desperate situations. You need desperate measures to be put in place to assist those people. I know women who have the card who are then able to say no to family, to their partners who have issues with substance abuse and who regularly assault them. They're able to say no to them, to say, look, I don't have money, I don't have cash on me, all I have is this card. Therefore, I cannot hand that over to you. There is less opportunity for people to get access to their family members' money. And what we're doing is, what these people are saying when they claim this is racist, is they're ignoring these vulnerable individuals, and they are not allowing them to have a voice. They're not allowing them to be heard, and they're completely and utterly disregarding how much of an issue, we call it humbugging, is in Indigenous families. Senator Mullendry McCarthy talks about it herself. She's even admitted on radio that her family prefer the basics card, which is not as good as the cashless debit card, that they prefer that because of this issue of humbugging.
Oh, this is why I love you, Jacinta, because you just tell it like it is. You've been there, you've talked to the people, you know what's really happening, what the real issues on the ground are, and we need to hear more from you. Jacinta Price, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me, Rita.